Beneath the surface of the global economy, the foundational price of money has quietly surged to multi-decade highs. While the stock market captures the daily headlines, the actual cost to borrow capital has shifted, rewriting the math for trillions of dollars in corporate debt. To fight off inflation, the Federal Reserve hiked interest rates at the fastest pace in recent history. They took the baseline rate for the entire economy and pulled it up from zero. This chart shows the Secured Overnight Financing Rate, or SOFR, the overnight receipt for the entire U.S. financial system. In early 2022, it sat at effectively zero. By mid-2023, it climbed to over 5%. This specific rate is the benchmark used to price a massive category of corporate borrowing, known as floating rate debt. Unlike a fixed-rate mortgage, where you lock in a rate on day one, floating rate debt moves with the market. The interest rate on these loans locks to that SOFR benchmark, meaning as the baseline climbs, the borrower's mandatory interest payments climb directly alongside it. That rapid spike is translating into immediate cash flow pressure for mid-sized corporate borrowers who previously operated with almost no margin for error. The software company Pluralsight is a clear example of this shift. In 2021, they were acquired and saddled with over $1 billion in floating rate debt. At the time, with SOFR near zero, the interest was manageable. When SOFR reached 5%, the math changed. The interest payments became unsustainable, and by August 2024, Pluralsight's cash flow broke. A group of private lenders was forced to step in, restructure the debt, and seize 85% of the business. Pluralsight is part of a broader trend. Data from Fitch tracking middle-market private credit borrowers recently showed a trailing 12-month default rate of 6%, the highest rate recorded since the index began. The data reveals a striking divergence. While borrower defaults are reaching these record highs, the $2 trillion private credit industry is simultaneously reporting record income and paying out record cash dividends to its investors. These two trends, soaring corporate failures and record lender profits, exist in a state of mathematical tension. It suggests a significant disconnect between the actual health of the borrowers and the performance reported by the funds. As JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon noted, when you see one cockroach, there are probably more. Private credit operates in a shadow ecosystem. These loans bypass public markets, meaning they do not trade on open exchanges where a definitive daily price is set by the collective actions of buyers and sellers. Instead, they're classified as Level 3 assets. Because there is no public market price to reference, the value of these loans is appraised internally, typically only once a quarter. This creates an inherent conflict. The funds that issued the loans are the same entities subjectively deciding if those loans are still valuable, relying on internal models rather than independent market data. This lack of independent oversight provides the flexibility for lenders to manage how they report the damage when their borrowers begin to struggle. One specific mechanism used to manage these reports is payment in kind, or PIK. Under a standard loan, a borrower must transfer a block of cash to the lender every month to cover the interest. But if a borrower can no longer afford that payment, the lender can trigger a PIK option. Instead of a cash payment, the unpaid interest is simply added on to the total principal balance owed at maturity. The debt grows, but the immediate cash requirement vanishes. Because the loan was restructured as a pay-a-k arrangement, no cash payments were technically missed. On the lender's books, a distressed loan can continue to be classified as a performing asset. The PIK feature effectively removes the traditional default trigger, allowing lenders to present a company sliding toward insolvency as a stable, healthy asset. Much of this activity happens within business development companies, or BDCs. These investment funds receive tax-exempt status as long as they follow specific regulatory requirements. Under current accounting rules, lenders are permitted to report that unpaid capitalized PIK interest as actual taxable income on their balance sheets. To maintain their tax-exempt status, these BDCs are legally required to distribute at least 90% of that taxable income to their investors in the form of dividends. This creates a cycle where funds are mailing out physical cash dividends to investors based on income they never actually collected in cash, money derived from companies that are often drowning in compounding debt. A significant portion of the private credit market is currently sustained by this accounting logic. Reported stability is, in many cases, a byproduct of rolling unpaid interest into ever-growing mountains of debt. This chart displays the maturity wall. $85 billion in BDC debt is scheduled to come due between 2026 and 2029. To pay off these inflated balances, borrowers must refinance at today's high interest rates. Because most of these companies absorbed the same rate shock at the same time, their financial health deteriorated in unison. Now they are scheduled to hit this maturity wall together. Accounting logic can be used to delay the recognition of a loss. Unpaid interest can be rolled into a larger balance, and a distressed loan can be labeled as performing. But the math eventually catches up, and the private credit market is moving toward an inevitable collision.